Welcome to Behind the Badge. This podcast is about the frontline community, its people, their experiences, and the impact of service life. Each episode brings candid conversations around resilience, well-being, and navigating the unique challenges of high-risk roles. Some discussions may be emotionally challenging. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Behind the Badge. Today, a little bit different. It's going to be just Jase and I having a chat, having a chinwag.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
2 years.
We didn't even realise. So 2 years of Behind the Badge. So what we're going to do, we're just going to have a bit of a reflection today.
Nice.
Bit of a reflective birthday party. Mate, 2024, July 27, I think it was.
Yep.
What's happened since then?
I think importantly, talk about why, if you remember going back, we had those phone discussions earlier about what we want to do, what we want to achieve from the podcast. I think that's probably an important thing. And obviously as 2 years have gone on, everyone we've spoken to is probably pretty much hitting the mark that, we wanted to try and achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I think to be fair, it was probably born out of a bit of frustration.
Yeah.
But it was born out of wanting to, I guess, help the people on the ground, the people in our community, those first responders, those military members, their families, on how to navigate service life, but give them the tools and the ability to be able to do that. And that was across the whole continuum of health too. That's being proactive. Perhaps there's, while you're going through some sort of hardship, and then maybe on the other side as well. But yeah, for me, as in those early days, it was like, let's get some tools, some strategies. Let's get some services out there so that people don't feel like they have to do this stuff on their own.
I think too, it was apparent that it's a common theme across all, defence, fire, police, ambulance. We were hearing the same sort of stories. It was certainly not a malicious intent from any of those organisations, but there just seemed to be that massive gap of when someone goes down that path, they do feel isolated or alone. And
do you mean like once they put their hand up?
Well, even people reluctant to put their hand up.
Yeah, yep.
Initially. And I think, again, with some of the people that we've been talking to and the feedback that we've got from numerous people saying that episode in particular helped them. They resonated so well with that. I mean, how often do we hear that? That really resonated with me, that episode. And sometimes it's the ones you don't think would have an impact, and they're the ones that have the big impact. So,
yeah, that's been a pretty cool thing over the last couple of years. Yeah. Hey, like it's you never know where it's going to come from or who it's going to come from. I guess you never know who's listening, right? And that's what like Mark McConville said to us last episode. He goes, you never know who's listening, you never know who it's going to help.
That's right.
But I guess it's really heartwarming to get some of those bits of feedback saying, because of that, I've now done this, I've now invested into this, or I've become aware of that. And I guess that's the whole reason that we're doing this together, is that hopefully someone does go and take charge and take some accountability and have somewhere to go. As opposed to being unaware, I guess.
You look back at the episode and you think, I remember the Luke Smith.
Yep.
Lukey, his episode just seemed to hit the mark with a lot of people, as did many others. And we'd often sit there and go, what is it in that episode that drew that attention? But I just think it's simply that whoever's listening, one thing or one part of that conversation just resonates so heavily with them that it's, and I don't think we can put we're not to try and structure any episode to try and achieve a certain thing. It's just got to be let people decide on what's going to fit for them, and you know, I think we've been very fortunate in that area that the guests that we've had on have, you know, really resonated with those people. So
absolutely, and it's funny you say that because about the structure. We have never had any. I mean, you can probably tell.
as like today,
Yeah, that's right. You can probably tell that we don't have one. But you know, we often talk off air about the one thing that we do. The one stipulation we do have is that someone can take something away from it.
yeah.
You know, it's what can someone on the other end of this microphone, listening in their car or watching at home on the computer, however they're consuming this, what's something that they could potentially take away to improve their health and well-being or the health and well-being of those around them. That's the one stipulation that we have had.
Yeah.
So
And again, I think that seems to be working.
yeah. Well, I mean, some of the feedback has been that, you know, so that's really cool. I've got a question for you though. Thinking back, I know that we've done 36 episodes now. Is there anything that stuck with you? Like anything that stands out, or is there anything that maybe you've changed or implemented?
Oh, I think we touched on it briefly in the car park this morning. A lot of the people that we get on, even there seems to be a common theme with, obviously, you know, we talk about those really important things, sleep and diet. I remember, you know, whether it was because it was the very first episode, but I just remember the guest, Ben Pronk at the time, talking about lifestyle. And I'm sitting there listening going, oh my God, that's me, that's me, that's me. And whether that was the trigger point to try and change my ways, it didn't happen straight away after that episode, but the more we spoke about different things to different guests, it was really ringing home to me. And I knew that I don't know if I described it the other week. I just felt like I was on that tipping point of, if I keep going down the path that I am, I'm going to be in an area where I'm going to have to do a lot of work to get back to my base or back to a normal, you know. And it wasn't anything that was, you know, dangerous or, well, potentially, you know. In particular, Ben talked about, you know, he'll often just go, if he goes to meet up with some mates, he might have one or two beers. That was the thing that really sort of stuck with me, was, okay, I'm no longer having that beer to enjoy it with my mates. I'm all of a sudden coming home and, you know, instead of 2 beers, it might be 4 beers, then it might be 5 beers, and it might be, you know, to the point where I thought, nah, okay, this is, you know, I'm right on that tipping point of maybe something that's going to be out of control soon. So thankfully, I made some positive changes, and, you know, what am I, 44 days alcohol free and
dry.
Yeah. But I've got to tell you, I mean, I thought it would have been really, really difficult. Because it's been part of, you know, our family's fabric. Growing up in, you know, Australia, and that family culture of the uncles, the aunties getting together, and that seemed to be the, you know, the theme. And as kids, you'd sit around and watch your dad at the barbecue having the beers, and, you know, mum's gathering the kids and putting them in the car, and we're all going home, and it was part of the growing up in Australia. But and I really thought, yeah, this is, you know, I'm going to struggle with this, you know. But it's been quite, well, easy. And I've never said, I think I laid some pretty loose ground rules down with myself. I never said I'm going to give it away, because I know how disappointed I'd be if I went out and had a beer and I thought, you know, I wanted to be sober. And
so more of like a healthy reduction as opposed to like elimination.
Yeah, but as I've sort of said that to myself, I haven't even wanted to, you know, have a beer. Now I've put myself in front of barbecues with, you know, friends, and been to several football matches with my daughter, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to test.
Test, yep.
But yeah, thankfully the zero alcohol beers are around now, and they don't taste all that flash. But I think a lot of it's the social element.
Yep.
Because I'll go home and have a barbecue, and the first thing you do, you flick the gas on, and you're in the fridge, grab a beer, and water the garden. Next minute, you've had 3 beers watering the garden, and one would say our gardens are fairly healthy at home, but not anymore. So yeah, it was a social aspect, but I'm not going to say it's. It has been easy, but I don't want to jinx myself. And I got to tell you, everything that every guest has said of that, the positive side to it is absolutely. My sleep went from. If my Garmin watch, I was in the 40s or 50s with no REM, no deep sleep. Yep. My light sleep was 5 hours. My awake was, and it was like every day you functioning.
Yep.
But you just put it back to being tired all the time. I've become irritable, and I think that was one of the things that I started to notice. Shouting at the dogs, Barnaby.
Poor Barnaby.
Not Barnaby Joyce, that's not my dog. Just I could feel myself getting irritable at work, and I thought that was what I was talking about earlier about that. I'm on that tipping point, but my sleep's just improved 100%. Clarity through the day.
Yep.
Like I don't have that fog. In my thought process, or just things seem to be clearer. My partner and I, if we go out somewhere, I normally would, like, come on, let's go. This is just too many people. I've had enough. Let's go. But now it's like you enjoy the day, the longer duration of the day is going out to markets or whatever it is. But we'll just see how long we can go.
Mate, keep it up.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And it's good that I guess you see those positive effects to it too.
Oh.
And I imagine, as some of those, the inverse of that, like the negative ones, become more normalised, and you probably don't realise it until you experience the positive effects and go, oh, holy shit, this is what it's like not having that brain fog. This is what it's like having a good night's sleep.
Exactly. And I caught up with a couple of work colleagues, and one in particular had been dry for 2 years, and I thought, and surrounded by that was some pretty tragic circumstances and some of the things that he and his wife had experienced, and I thought, what, if this guy with things that have happened to him can do that, this should be a walk in the park for me, as in, so that was a bit of a motivator. But yeah, I recommend it to anybody. I mean, we talked to Sean Gorman a lot. I remember in the early days there where he talks a lot about it, and 4 months and then 6 months, or then it goes on to 12 months, 2 years, and the benefits. And yeah,
good, man.
But you've been the same for some time.
I think before we started it, actually,
I remember you saying,
and God, it's been that long. I think it was literally just health. And funny enough, for me, I think it kicked off with the Pronk brothers as well.
Yeah,
it was I think it was Dan though. It was a presentation that he gave, where he spoke about it, and he spoke about the sleep and the health aspects and all those sort of things. And it's just like, wow, what am I doing?
Yeah,
like it's just it wasn't the. I guess the binge drinking, it was the 1 or 2 a night, and how that still affects your sleep, and then the flow on of that and all that sort of stuff. So
I was just going to say that even before, like I'd sort of decided to not drink, I just remember on those sort of quieter nights you might have a beer with dinner, but my sleep was still crap.
Yep.
Just from one drink.
Yeah, it's funny because in that presentation he does the. He did an experiment on himself for science, with his Garmin tracker, and he shows the sleep data from a night where he didn't have any alcohol, and it has all the right parameters, for REM, light, deep, blah 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 blah. And then he said, in the name of science, I had 2 drinks, and then recorded the same sleep, and he put the same data up, and it was rubbish. It was absolute garbage. No REM, all the parameters were just no good. And he said that was from 2 drinks.
Yeah.
So then you multiply that across however many nights you have 1 or 2 drinks. It's like, oh shit. So but in saying that though, like we're not bashing anyone that enjoys alcohol or anything
and
like
look,
that. But
I mean, me, for those who know me, they know I was the one at the party who, probably last to leave and enjoyed, a good night session. But it's funny the little things like when I go to the football, I'm drinking the zeros and it's like all of a sudden I don't have to worry about getting home.
Yeah.
I jump in the car and drive home and Sunday doing the gardening and I got night shift. Well, I can have a beer because I'm going, I'm drinking zeros and still got a night shift. But even that, drinking the zeros, there's been a reduction in that. It's just not, fulfilling that need, I guess. And so I'm even sort of down to maybe 2 a week of the zero beers. So
that's awesome.
I don't know what's happened, mate. I was a bit worried. So what's going on with this guy? But I tell you, the one thing I did notice is, during those drinking periods, it really exacerbated the thinking about work stuff and the jobs and I think that was one thing I thought, okay, I'm at the crossroad here where I can really try and pull that back. And if it's as simple as that, maybe that's just the thing that people might get a better working quality or whatever just by doing those simple little things without having, in the back of their mind, the therapy, whatever it is. But that definitely has made a big difference in me. Just
awesome.
But
small change, but
small change. Yeah.
Mate, that's awesome.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Yeah, it's. I certainly didn't think I'd. I mean, it's only 44 days, but I didn't think I'd go 10. So,
but that's cool, and again tied back to just what someone has said. Like it's not that Ben was like, don't drink.
No, and he even said that.
Yeah, he said that it's basically it's giving that education and awareness for someone to then take away themselves, like you have, and go, well, now I understand, right? Because that, for me, before we started this, get given briefs, get given information about your health and well-being and self-care strategies, and like you said, it usually is eat well, sleep well, and move your body. But there's so much more to those things, like the alcohol affecting your sleep. It's providing that information so people can do with it what they will. But when you've got it, once you've had that information, when you can sort of recognize when you get to that point and go, oh, hold on a minute, let's pull it back because I know it's not good. So mate, it's fantastic. Awesome to hear.
Like when I was sort of going through those stages, it like I said before, you start thinking about the work stuff, but one thing I've really, and I'm a big worrier of my health, and this is the irony of it all, worry about your health, but you keep sort of doing the same, same things. And all of a sudden I didn't worry, I'm not worrying about my health so much because I know obviously a big contributor is probably going to be alcohol to some of those ongoing issues. But now that I'm not doing it, it's like I shouldn't have to worry as much because I'm not doing it. I've eliminated that one thing that linked all my little, concerns about, whether it's our job, of course, is the cancers and all those sorts of things, heart. So I'm not as,
it's good,
worried about it, but a lot of benefits.
They're well documented.
Yeah.
They're well documented.
And I'll tell you what, I've spoken to 3 or 4 people now and they're doing the same. I was talking to a mate on the phone the other day and I was, showing off a bit. I said, I haven't had a beer in 36 days. He goes, me too. And I went, wow. So it is, maybe it's catching on with our society a bit more and we might go to that pub one day and it'll be just all zero on
empty.
tap and
empty.
Yeah.
No one's in. No one's in there.
Hey, and I tell you, we had Ryan Girdler on the show too, and he was talking about it a lot too in relation to,
And another culture, like in that sporting culture,
rugby league,
that era where, again, drinking is just part and parcel. With,
Sponsorships were,
yes, yep,
BB
absolutely.
or whoever it was at the time, but
Yep. Any number of them, Jim Beam for a
Yeah.
little while or whatever. But
it's
it's mate, I'm just stoked that he took something away and something positive is manifested, from.
Who out of all, not trying to pigeonhole any guests, but is there any resonated with you in relation to who we spoke to or who we've chatted with?
I don't know if there's anyone in particular. I guess one of the biggest things that I've taken away is just fostering life outside the job.
Yeah.
And just really doubling down on that. And it's important to care about your job and be good at your job. But what I've taken away is it's more important, just as if not more important, to foster your life outside of that. Whatever that job is, whatever that uniform that you wear, whatever role you play, it's important that you put effort and time into relationships, hobbies, interests, and things outside of work, so that you are a complete person. I'd say that's probably, now I think about it, it's probably Harry Moffat.
Yeah.
That got me thinking a lot about that stuff, and about the importance of that. If a bloke that's been in the SAS for 35 years can say that, well, mate, it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So that really resonated with me. Just start being a gardener and nurturing all those other aspects of your life to make sure that they don't fall away. Because, I saw it both in the military and now in emergency services as well. Those roles and those jobs can go in a blink of an eye, whether that's through physical ill health, mental ill health, family issues, what you name it. There's a whole heap of different things that can take those jobs away really quickly. And what's left after that? The things that are left are the things that you've nurtured outside of that job. And if you haven't nurtured any of that, and you've put all of your time, effort, energy, and soul into your work, once that gets taken away, who are you? What do you do? So for me, that was a big one. And this is, to be quite fair, this is part of it as well. Doing this has given me something outside of work, different bits and pieces, supporting the family and all that. So
I'll tell you another one was that really explained it well to me in relation to that transition and every sort of end of the episode we'll always ask, if you were to talk to a young, Bobby Smith or whatever, what would you tell them? What advice would you give? And it was Tommy, current police officer, acting, went down to the acting.
Tommy Archer. Yep.
Sorry, Tommy. He explained it really well about don't make that the most important part of your life.
Yes.
You want to be able to go to a barbecue and just be, that person. No one cares what you're doing at work and, all those friends that you had at school ships, maintain those relationships and for someone who's been in two different arenas, defence as well as the police force, where that is really everyone's proud of their their work and talk about it a lot. But he's found that little niche in acting that just gets him away from that. When we always talk about the transition out of that profession becomes your identity. And I think he actually said, don't make it become your identity.
Yeah.
Which is hard because we've been, doing it for so long. I thought he explained that quite well. And it's to find that little, I don't want to be talking with my mates at 65 about how the job was. And
don't lose yourself and don't lose your interest just because you join a job.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think back about being in the military, and it is tricky because you get shipped to a different town and everything's new. But I think it's probably just as important, if not important, to, reach out to that local sporting club or that whatever that interest you had at home, it's still going to be there as well. So make time to do that. Similarly, with shift work, it can be tricky because certain things run on certain nights of the week every week, and you might not be able to attend all of it, but it's important to have some touch point, some connection with the community and your interests.
Well, I always said if it wasn't for the shift work side of it, I'd be black belt in karate. I'd be a lead singer in a band. I'd be touring with a top band, drumming. I'd be doing all these things, but yet haven't achieved any of them. I use that as an excuse. No, I can't come to training. I've got night shift. But yeah, so it does have a little effect, I suppose. But yeah.
But yeah, mate. So that's probably the biggest takeaway,
Yeah.
or the biggest. I wouldn't even say shift, but that's what I've taken away and I've implemented in my own life is to try and just make sure there's a bit of balance and it's not tipping too far into work. Like I said, still try and show up and be proficient and professional and do a good job when I'm there. But when I'm not there, I'm not that
there.
person.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on other areas and doing other things.
And it is difficult because, especially in defence, where you're relying on each other so much, and no different to any other frontline work, or there is that heavy expectation that you work as a team and you rely on each other. So you get to know everyone quite intimately on your shift and, their families. And so it is hard to break away from that. Not that you have to break away from it, but, to still have your own sort of group of friends and
again, shift work makes that tricky too.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got Wednesday and Thursday off, and everyone at your cricket club or whatever doesn't.
Yeah,
it makes it hard. But in saying that though, you can still find common ground and interest with those people at work. That's not work.
Yes,
you know what I mean. If and you're never going to find that if you don't have an interest outside of work. So, think about those mess room chats or whatever. If you've got nothing else to talk about except work, it's just going to be work. So I think it's still beneficial you can still have a balance of both, I think. And you can still interact, obviously, with people from work and form really great relationships. But if you've got some other things to your own personality and your own world, then you can bring that into that relationship. And it's not just the jobs, the jobs.
Yeah. And that is tricky. Yeah. But I mean, one thing I often think about is, how fortunate we've been in this doing the podcast is so many people giving their own time to come and talk to us and some really influential people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been fantastic. And obviously those, everyone that we get on seem to be able to get the ear of the listeners and sort of be able to pitch those important messages across. Like if you had said to me in 2 years, where do you think we'd be with sort of episode-wise and guest-wise, I would never have dreamt of talking to the likes of, the Ryan Girdlers and all those, everybody that we've had on has just been so giving of their time and just sending some great messages. So
yeah, I think absolutely right on that. People have been very generous, and I think it comes from my, I guess, experience understanding with them is like everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to see other people do well and thrive. No one wants to see other people struggling when they don't have to. So I think it's all come from a really genuine and a really nice place.
yeah,
and the depth of knowledge that some of these people bring has been fucking phenomenal.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah.
It blows my mind sometimes to think about it, and it's fucking cool.
Yeah,
It is really cool. And like you said, the messages that they're bringing and some of the tools and some of the strategies that have been given out is just, mate, like again, across 2 different agencies, nearly 2 decades, you've done nearly 3. I'm sure there's stuff that we've been learning here and we've been privy to in these conversations that you've never had before.
Oh, like, one of the things off the top of my head I can think of, when I joined 30 years ago, it was nothing, breath work wasn't around, or if it was not sort of, we weren't privy to it. But a lot of the stuff, it was just go to work and do the best you can. And, but that breath work, just every guest is talking about it. So I thought, oh, come on, I've got to give this a try. All these people can't be wrong. And yeah. Oh, we went and did the session with Ryan, and I'd never experienced anything like it.
Well, not only did we go and experience it, so that something cool that came out of this, we didn't facilitate it, but we helped put on a breathwork event as well.
For work colleagues, yeah.
And so having, I think it was around 30 odd first responders show up to experience the same thing, like just the positive impact that
I've certainly found that really helpful. But I mean, I guess people joining those, services now are probably fortunate that there's all that around. Like when I joined, like I said, there was always the mess room chats, but the stigma was pretty heavy around that sort of get on the truck and So fortunately, there has been a shift, and we're trying to push that shift a lot more, and we talk about resilience and vulnerability a lot in our episodes, and those again, getting back to all those influential people. When you sit and listen to them, you go, "Hey, you know what? If they can do it, so can I."
Absolutely, I think the power of lived experience is well and truly understated.
Massive.
Because again, if someone models that stuff and leading by example, which a lot of our guests have done and continue to do, I think that's where there's a whole lot of magic that can happen, particularly if someone is in a position that people look up to, or, whether that's someone who's done the hard yards as an SAS operator, whether that's a leader at a station level, whatever it is, like if you're walking the walk, not just talking the talk, I think that lived experience can be really invaluable, really valuable.
There's certainly, you can, with the feedback that we get from those episodes with the lived experience, that's, certainly evident that that's what a lot of people are sort of chasing.
Resonate too, yeah. And perhaps that's why Lukey's did so well. You mentioned Lukey Smith before. Yeah. He's just a straight up dude. Yeah. He's just walking us through that lived experience.
Yeah. In multiple sort of, defence or career in the fire service or whatever, he's done it on both sort of fronts, and certainly I tell you what I get a lot out of, and you're the same, we talk about this all the time. I've been in contact with someone that had gone off work with, facing some troubles and difficulties, and to get those messages back saying, "Hey," just out of the blue, "Hey, just want to let you know, I listened to such and such episode. Man, that resonated with me." And it's just made me, make some changes, and I thought, wow, like, not that I wouldn't expect that to happen, but it sort of puts you back a bit and go, wow, that's awesome. That someone can say something, that someone can hear it and go, wow. Yep. I guess my thing too, with someone that resonated with me with certain things, and so, but I just keep them coming if there's something. I think put it out to the listeners if there's topics that they want to talk about, and or guests that they want to see on the podcast. Let us know, because
Yeah, absolutely. And you can contact us in multiple different ways for that, whether that's via email or Instagram message, or just drop us a comment on something, whatever, we'll see it. But yeah, I think absolutely we'd love to hear from people who have an idea on a particular topic, or they want to hear from a particular guest, or they want to learn about something, or perhaps they've had an experience and they thought, oh, geez, I could have used this knowledge beforehand, or whatever. More than happy to try and explore that with someone and put it out to the masses. So, yeah, we're always open for suggestions.
Yeah. And maybe they've got some, like you say, the stories they can share can obviously help someone, especially if they're those lived sort of experiences. And
yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely,
love to hear from,
mate. I got maybe a bit of a random off topic for you. What if you could? I guess this was born, like I said, out of a bit of frustration, right? We want to give this stuff to people and have this knowledge and storytelling and strategies shared to as many people as we can, right? To try and help their time in service in particular. If you had a magic wand and you could do whatever you want, how would you see things, like how would you see this information getting out to people? Like at what touch points would you share things with them, and how would you do things differently? Like noting your experience through our agency, what would you do?
Look, I really think where some of the organisations or services may miss the boat a little bit is capturing people at their early stages in that profession. We turn up to recruit school, we learn all the basic fundamentals of what it is to be, in that profession, and they do it well, repetition. And I'm only going back on my sort of recruit course, and there was not a lot at all about, the mental health side of things and what to expect, or, I know they can't sit there and, you will go to jobs and you might see this, you might see that. More about the things that you can be doing during that, or in the early infancy of your career, to take it right through to get longevity out of your career. Because, we see it often, and often too much, that we're losing really, really good people in all sort of organisations to the mental health side of things. And I often think if there's something that we could have done or captured early with that individual, maybe they would get, that extra time in their careers and still enjoy doing what they're doing. And so that's one thing I'd like to see really change, and how we do that. We're doing our bit on this forum or this platform, but I really think it needs to be talked about a lot more. One thing is, being a station officer or a manager on shifts, we're not taught to have conversations with people. How do we address? And I was a peer support officer for 15 years, and one of the main reasons I did that, apart from wanting to try and help people, was very new station officer, sitting in my duty office, knock on the door, firefighter walks in and says, "Hey, I need a minute." Sure. Breaks down in tears. And I'm like, oh wow. It got me by surprise. And I guess thankfully, that he had enough sort of courage or faith in me to come and bring that to my attention. But I thought, I'm a manager on a shift. I need to be all around this and how best to be able to address those conversations or situations. I think I fumbled my way through it just by, being your own character and sympathising, empathising with that person. But I wanted to get better at that because I thought, I feel probably at the time I felt useless towards his needs. And thankfully, and actually it turned out that we both went and did a peer support course together. And
there you go.
And that helped a lot too, but I still think we're way behind in teaching not only managers but teaching people on shifts to detect it or notice it, and how to have those conversations. Because some people, that's a tough conversation to have, even to ask someone. So there's tough conversation for someone to bring that to someone. Like I might come up to you and at work, and I've worked with you some time. I've built up that mateship, and then I would probably feel safe to be able to share that. Now, that other person, they've got to be able to have the tools and to be able to. Most people, it's in their natural DNA. Especially we find in the services, because they join the service because they want to help people. So it's there, but it is a tricky conversation to have. And I always used to describe it as, when I was talking to someone, I'd feel like I've got my foot hovering over a brake pedal all the time. If I say anything, am I going to make it worse? do I step on the brake here, pull it up, or do I? But, one of the things that I was always sort of talked from one of the psychologists was just people just got to be present, and it's about just listening. No one wants you to cure anything or fix, but it's just that listening and that support. I think we need to hone in a bit more on that and to have those discussions and how to have those discussions.
Yeah, yep. That's a good one. I think that it would probably be beneficial to look at our health and well-being as a bunch of skill sets.
Oh, yeah.
Because you look at any of these professions, and we break things down into skills, and we train for those skills, and we develop those skills so that we can do the job effectively. I think if we took that same standpoint and lens to looking at our mental and physical, social and emotional health as skills, which they are, I think that would probably be beneficial. And then we looked at it through that lens of training. So we're training these skills. That might be more palatable that way, but it also might mean that we can structure some actual training. And then if you can match, the skills that you're developing to your rank and role as well. So then that way, when you first come into the job, we're developing self-regulation tools. We're developing skills in being able to recognise within ourselves or maybe our mates and how we can help. When we then push through into more leadership positions, well, maybe the skill set becomes having conversations, recognising and bringing that up, and those sort of things. So I think we could probably do better at training for one, but I think if we looked at things as a skill set, it might help us develop those things a bit better. But yeah, and I also think that we're sorely lacking proactive.
We are very reactive.
Yeah, it's like we sort of wait until the wheels fall off, and then we try and treat, as opposed to like, let's get in early and give people the tools, knowledge, skills, whatever, to try and stop the wheels falling off in the first place. But yeah, I think that would be a good start, and you could insert that training, like you said, early recruits in promotion courses, whatever it is. There could be scope to keeping developing on, like building on those skills as you progress through careers. Whether that helps or not.
There's a gentleman that left the job, a few years ago now, and he often talks about it on his sort of socials about, that expectation of a recruit not really being trained for that real world. When you land on the floor of a police station, fire station, ambulance station, whatever that may be, but I think the preparedness wasn't quite what he expected, or so, and talks a lot about that, and it's true. It's like, I've gone to all these incidents now, and how am I supposed to feel? I remember the very first debrief I went to. They used to call it, back then it was called the Mitchell model, and it was, how are you feeling right now? And I just remember going home that night thinking, I don't feel like that psychologist was explaining. He was saying, you will feel like this tonight. You'll go home and you'll do this, you'll do that. And I woke up in the morning, I thought, I didn't have any of that. Is there something wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Am I a psychopath?
Yeah. And that took me a little bit to get my head around all that. But thankfully that model changed, and we were a bit more definitely cautious of all those sort of things. But again, it goes back to that education sort of side of things in, what the job is going to be about. I know, look, it's tricky, I get it, but I think, especially there's a young influx of or younger people joining those career paths, and have they had the sort of life experience before, prior to joining? So there's a lot of layers to it, but that's one thing I think we really need to focus on and get probably a little bit better at. And I don't think it's hard.
I don't think it's much, hey?
I think people sort of see it and go, that's a massive mountain to climb, and how are we going to approach it? I don't think it's hard.
Nah, it's even if it's a massive mountain, you tackle it one step at a time.
Exactly. Got to start.
And all of a sudden you're halfway up the peak because you've just made those steps and those small inroads. And you just keep going, But I guess it's got to be on the radar to begin with. It's got to be a concern, and it's got to be someone's got to carry the ball up in an organisational sense to try and implement this stuff. Which brings me to the other side of the coin, which is for me, organisational. The organisation has somewhat of a responsibility to provide these training and a bit of skill sets and those sort of things around maintaining your health and well-being within the job. But the other side to that is I also think being personally accountable for your own health as well.
Oh, definitely.
Is massive. We need to take charge of that, especially in light of if you don't think you're getting the right or enough training or information or whatever, you need to take it upon yourself to arm yourself as well. So hopefully this goes some way towards that. Hopefully we can inspire some people to go, oh, I might look into this further, or I might, maybe I'm having too many drinks, or whatever it is. Hopefully we're helping that. But I do think it's important that we don't lay all the blame external to us.
Yeah, and
we take a bit of control and get, well, I need to look after my mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health, because again, we do it for a skill set at work.
Yeah.
We do it, okay, I need to get up to speed on this, whether it's my, weapons handling, whether it's, driving the truck or pumping out a job, any number of skill set, you'd identify that and you'd go and work on it and train on it without even thinking.
I always remember one of the, guests talking about, you do yourself an injury, like a physical injury, hamstring.
Yep.
You go to the physio. That physio says you need to do A, B, C, D to get back on the trucks or back to work. And you do that religiously.
Yep.
To get back on the truck because that's your passion, that's your drive. But why don't we do it when it comes to the brain or the mind, you know? And that, I thought about that. When he said that, I went, wow, that's so true.
Absolutely.
Whether it's, the lack of understanding or the lack of tools or whatever that may be, or is it just purely come down to stigma? If I need to tackle that injury, I'm somewhat going to have to expose myself here and let someone know that, first thing that happens, you go off work and everyone sees that you're not at work and, hey, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
You got to confront that, that conversation. So, like we said earlier, there's so many layers to it. And, we can only sort of, like you say, chip away and break the stigma a bit more because it is getting better, from, you would have seen at defence days and certainly in emergency services days, it has improved a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I don't think that, and we've had a couple of examples on the podcast that it's not an immediate death sentence to your career. It's not you're going to get kicked out straight away for putting your hand up and managing it. We do see those cases where people have to be moved on from their employment, but I think it has shifted. If you seek help early enough, if you're proactive in maintaining your mental fitness, there is scope to come back. We've had numerous episodes where people are currently serving.
Yeah.
After having mental health injuries. Mental injuries.
Yeah.
So I think that it is changing. You're absolutely correct. It is. We just need to keep chipping away at that and looking at it the same way.
Yeah.
Looking at it as the hammy that's been busted.
Yeah.
What are we going to do to get back on there?
And I think too, the people that decided, or you said, some of the ones that didn't come back, we've spoken to a few of those people, but they were at peace with that.
Yeah.
Because they moved on from that part of their life, obviously with the correct help and provided with some really good tools. But some people didn't want to return because they were in that place of, I'm getting better. I guess the key message is it's not always a career killer, as in for those who want to get back on shift, or it's very achievable. And there's the full support behind that with the organisation. So, for those who don't, that from what I've seen, that's their choice.
Yep.
And like I said, they've be able to sort of rest easy with that decision.
Yeah, I think Tommy Archer comes to mind as well in that he managed his very well in that he found a different role. Same service, didn't leave. Said I'm having some issues.
Yeah.
And then he, no longer am I in the patrol car chasing the bad dudes. I'm going to go and instruct because that's healthier for me. There's always those options, and I think it's just about maybe a bit of acceptance. Sometimes it might be a bit tricky to like accept within ourselves, like, no longer can I do that stuff. I'm not able to do the cool stuff anymore, but I can still contribute in other ways. I think that's a difficult conversation to have with yourself sometimes too, particularly if you've built your identity really strongly tied to being that person.
Yeah. And I think too, like you say, it gives them another, different work sort of function. But for them to be able to then go and help someone who's going through that, like life's still good. It's okay. I'm now in a training role, or I'm now, in the office, but still am a major contributor of the service or the job in other ways. Because I often sit and think, I can imagine it would be a hard thing to do sitting in a workplace, fearing that next call, fearing the alarms going off or whatever it is, and having to go and perform. That would be daunting. And I think Tommy mentioned that. I think it was a certain incident that he was at that he even drove.
He drove the long way.
To delay that. Arriving and having to deal with what he had to deal with. I often think about that a lot and I would hate to think that people are wrestling with that.
Yeah.
And that's what getting back to your magic wand thing, is to be able to say to that person, hey, take a break. Who was the other gentleman we spoke to? It was another Tommy Brown.
Yep.
Sometimes just take a break.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. Just take a break. Doesn't mean it's gone, it's over.
Yep.
Just have that break.
Yep. Have a bit of time off.
Yeah.
Create a bit of space.
Yeah.
And work on your mental fitness.
Yep.
Do whatever that is, whatever works for you. Everyone's different, but, lean into some of those other areas that are going to help support you and maybe cut down on the things that are not helping. And if that's work, if it's, maybe habits that are not quite as healthy, cut back on them and lean into the good stuff, and then return in the same capacity or near or thereabouts. Away you go. It's okay. But I don't think that crosses a lot of our radars is to back off a bit. That's just not in our nature, I don't think.
And look, I earlier I made a comment of it's been easy. It is still difficult to break away from your natural habits or whatever. But so I'm not going to say it was a walk in the park at all. It's still tough, and there's still days where I walk past the surf club, and see people out in the balcony having a schooner with their lunch, and think, oh God, that'd be all right.
Yeah.
But and again, I think some of the habits over the years of that work space and then coming home dealing with that workspace of, if I just mask it with a few beers or whatever that looks like for some people, but once you break away from that, I think then those people will see some real clarity and it seems to be that sort of, you might chase your tail for a little bit, and get back on and whatever. But I do link it to a lot of obviously the stuff that's happening in the workplace, as in the jobs that we're attending, or there's certainly a massive link in that when you talk about your behaviours and habits at home. And I mean, let's face it, I often think about the family as well, your partners and your wives and your parents and your kids, and what effect is it having on them?
Yep.
That we don't. You often hear people say, "Well, I didn't think I had a problem."
Yeah.
But it's so evident and obvious to everyone else in that household that, getting back to what you said before, some changes. I would love to see some education to, family members and partners, is to look for those signs and to give them the toolkits that they need to help. And I tell you why that really resonated with me was because a long-term senior firefighter, very competent at his job, probably the last person I would have thought of, 15 years ago, that person would have would be dealing with some mental issues or trauma, and it was picked up by a family member, by his mum, in fact, to say, because she was around there one day and the normal family sort of thing happening, and he must have said something to the kids. The kids were only young at the time, and she approached the wife and just said, something's not right, because he never, ever speaks to his kids like that.
Yeah, right.
And that was enough for him to go, whoa, okay, there's something's happening.
Yeah.
And thankfully he got on that that pathway to recovery and recovered quite well, and still is a big advocate of the PTSD and all that still today, and started out a new career, but again picked up by someone. Now that could have went on for a long, long time, and may have gone right down that that dark place to where potentially it might have been too late.
Yep.
Because let's face it, be honest, when you talk about, unfortunately you see a lot of the high divorce rates right across the board, and that saddens me, because it's like, and I get it from a partner's point of view, like how much can you put up with a certain thing?
Yep.
And that's taxing on anybody, as well as taxing for the person sort of living that or going through that themselves. So I think if we could find that magic pill or whatever it is to be able to fix that. And I don't know if it's a stigma thing, where is it hard for someone to come home and sit down with their partner and say, hey, I'm struggling? And the knock-on effect of that is, does the partner know how to answer that or what to do? So that's, I don't know.
Multifaceted. I imagine there's a whole raft of reasons why, but I just think, that again, it probably comes back down to, for me anyway, sharing of information, education, and probably pretty early on in your career too. It's like, hey, this person's starting to join this, in this career. These are the challenges you're going to face. And not only these are the challenges, but here are some of the ways that you can combat those challenges. Here's some things to look for in the service member, but, also as the member, here's some things that you need to be wary of as well. Again, those education, we've spoken about a couple of guests, psychological transitions when you come home from work. So you're showing up as the best version of yourself when you get home to your partner and your kids. You're not showing up carrying all of that shit from your
it's
work.
Not your trauma to bring home.
Yeah, exactly. And it might not even be trauma. It might be organizational betrayal, moral injury. It might be, just stressful shifts. It's just maybe not shedding that properly before you walk in through the door. That's got to grind on anybody. If you're constantly coming home in a grumpy, shitty, tired mood, and I just think the more awareness, education, and tools that we can give people to lean into, because otherwise you're just going to keep doing what you're doing, unless you've got the knowledge to go, hold on a minute.
Because the other thing too is we're very protective because I don't discuss a lot of things to my family. You might talk about certain jobs or whatever, but you certainly don't go into detail of those things, because you want to protect your family. They don't need to hear any of those sort of details, and I guess there's part of it you don't want to relive the incident as well. So the tendency is to clam up and go home and not say anything. So it is tough, but it's that, again, I think it all boils back to teach us how to have those conversations.
Yep.
Teach us how to talk to someone about, hey, I'm going to put my hand up here, I'm struggling.
Yep.
Because in a couple of people that I've spoken to, it's when they, A, finally release that, and B, they get that confirmation that it's okay. Like, I've gone through the similar thing or whatever it is. You see the sense of relief run through their body and go, oh, it's not just me. It's so, yeah, keep working in that space. And
keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Great segue though. Let's return back to the podcast. Where are we going to go with it? What do you want to do? Where do you want to see it sort of its trajectory, or where do you want to see it travel into the future?
Look, I just get this feeling that we're only still on the runway and the wheels haven't even come up yet. I think there's a long way to go. Yep. Certainly, obviously, with the guests that we get on, and we've often talked about our golden dream of setting some sort of recovery centre up and having that one-stop shop where you can go in and talk to a counsellor or go and do some breath work or go and mill timber or do whatever it is that gives you that positive shift. That would be my goal in relation to where this podcast sort of lands somewhere in the distant future. I think that would be awesome.
Like a it's a word, like a wellbeing hub, type thing.
Yep.
Somewhere
we could still run a podcast out of a wellbeing hub, and but like I say, the breathwork class starts in 10 minutes. Yep. Go and join that, or whatever it is, yoga or whatever,
gym, whatever.
Yep.
Somewhere you can go.
One thing we having the guests that we get on have all got backgrounds, whether it's defence or emergency services, but we always talk about that, forming that committee of is it the white card system with defence?
Yeah, so they've got DVA, so they've got a white card, or white card, gold card, which covers your medical treatment for accepted injuries through service.
Yeah, I'd love to see the services across the board, nationwide, doing something like that.
Yep.
To what sort of degree, I'm not too sure, but to make that journey a little bit easier for the person that's going through that because let's face it, if someone in the back of their mind's going, I want to go and do that, but I just don't have the funds to do that right now, that's sad because,
Do you know what, on that, something that I've noticed recently though, there's so many ESOs, ex-service organisations, a lot of them are now starting to welcome in first responders as well. So traditionally, ESOs have always been return servicemen or ex-defence, whatever. But so many of them now are also opening up funding and spots for first responders, emergency service personnel, which is really, really great. I think one of the problems is though that people in the emergency services cohort are probably not as adept at understanding like the ESO system and understanding that they're out there and they're also offering to help as well. Because I think it's pretty widely known, in defence that they exist. Everyone knows, I'll throw a couple out there, the RSL or Soldier On or Mates for Mates or all those sort of things. It's sort of, the awareness is there for the defence community. I'm not sure that as a first responder or emergency service community, we're aware that these things are also available for us as well. But it is cool to see.
Yeah.
So hopefully like part of what we're doing, we can promote some of those things as well so that people can access that stuff so that at least funding's not getting in the way of that. Yeah, like I saw one the other day, it was equine therapy down in New South Wales. 2 fully funded spots for a 3 or 5 day retreat open to first responders as well. So
was that wasn't was it Jody, the guest we had on?
No, this was a different one, but it's I think there are opportunities out there, and I think they're growing.
Yeah.
But I think it's also about promotion of those activities and access.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I do agree. I think a nationalised or federal approach to looking after our first responders is sorely needed, because let's be honest, like it's the same job nationwide, whether you're like, there's obviously going to be variances, but whether you're fighting a fire, chasing a bad dude, or patching someone up, it's the same. You know, so I don't see why we couldn't do something similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Aussie Frontline has been a big advocate for that. They've been really, you know, bringing a lot of people to the party and doing some really good things. We've had them on a couple of times, and you're right. You know, I think that there's you've often talked about the wrestling where they've opened it up to emergency services and
Yeah.
So there's so much out there that we've just, you know, hopefully educate people to go and tap into it and
go and find it.
Yeah.
Yep, go and have a look. And again, I think for me, I'm a big advocate for that proactive. Don't wait, go and find it now.
Yeah.
There are some. There's plenty of like businesses or you know, members of the community that welcome in, are very sympathetic to first responders and emergency workers. Like there's, you know, like I'll use that jiu-jitsu example. There's plenty of gyms out there that will offer discounted rates for members to go and train. And I'm sure that's the same across the community as well. So again, get out, build that identity, look for your hobbies and interests, and there'll be something there. And then should you need it, if you're struggling, there'll be ESOs there that can also help out too. I mean, it's a shame that the ESOs are doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. So it's got to start somewhere.
It's got to start somewhere, and there's things available. There are places to go and avenues to sort of have a look at. But you know, you might just need someone to help you find it if you're in a spot of crisis or whatever. But
I tell you, another common theme that we hear about is and you know, it does relate to what you're talking about now, is we often hear someone going through their situation, and there's always been the very supportive manager who gets them through that jam. And on the flip side, there's been that manager that's just showed poor leadership and probably worsened the situation. So I think another thing is the message is to, you know, the leaders of all organisations is to potentially, we're all learning this together.
Yep.
So it doesn't stop at that level. It needs to, you know, continue on, and if there's something that we can do better, and we, like I said, I don't think there's malicious intent.
No.
I think it's a lack of understanding, but what the effect to someone who doesn't feel supported by a manager, we've seen the downside to that, and it's not a nice feeling. You know, moral injury all of a sudden is a word that's crept into, you know, our conversations a lot, and it's, again, not malice or any malicious intent, but it's there, it's alive and well, and you know,
we've all. I mean, yeah, it's to me, I find it interesting that there's that variance and that spread of reactions from leaders when looking after their people. And again, it probably, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, Jase, comes back to fucking training. You know,
exactly.
If you set the culture through the skills that we're passing on from day dot, but then through your promotional courses as well, that expectation, that culture is set. So then hopefully you take a lot of those wild swings and those variances out, and you bring everyone into the majority of the bell curve, because this is what we do here. This is how we have these conversations. This is how we look after people. This is how we react to someone who's come to us to have this conversation. And that way it's not as open to interpretation as much, and hopefully cuts those instances down of poor reaction and poor leadership.
Because I think, you know, you talk about some of those leaders that, you know, have that sort of tendency to maybe not be so supportive. I think that comes from their careers in, that's what they were told. You go back, and we're fortunate enough to be talking to an ex Queensland police officer that, way back in the earlier days, that when times were tough and it was the old school. And I think that stems from that. They think they're doing the right thing.
Yep.
And, but it's just,
well, what else? I guess if all you're doing is emulating or repeating the experience that you've seen, or that you've been, the environment that you've been in, like, what else do you know? So I can sort of see where you're coming from there, but at some stage we've also got to break that cycle as well and go, you know what, I got treated like that and I didn't particularly like it, so let's not do it again, because the cycle's got to stop somewhere.
I mean, it's the same situation. I've got mates that were brought up in a not so loving environment, and yet they're probably some of the best fathers I've seen.
Yep.
So that cycle has been broken. They often say, I was never going to be like my father or my mother. I was going to, bring my kids up. And to their credit, they have done that. So it's not impossible. You can change.
Goes back. Both are possible, aren't they?
Yeah.
You just keep the cycle going, or we can make a conscious decision that I don't want to treat. I don't want to treat others how I was treated. But interesting space. Like I said, I'm just going to be that broken record, mate. Just give people the skill sets and the training so that they know how to tackle that sort of stuff.
And we know, just from feedback, that we know there are managers that do listen to the podcast. So for those that are listening, we're all in this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
We join the job as the same rank basically, and progress through in whatever direction you want to take. But this is not foreign. To anyone. It shouldn't be foreign to anyone. We've all got to make positive change together, and there's nothing wrong with putting your hand up and saying, I haven't been the best manager I can be. I need to change. That's all people want to hear.
Yep.
That they can go to those people and be able to have those open and frank conversations and get the support that they need.
Yeah, well, I guess, mate, just because you've got a particular rank or you're in a particular role, it doesn't mean that you are impervious to making mistakes. It doesn't mean that you're perfect, and no one expects you to be either. It's actually quite the opposite. If you can show a bit of humility and openly admit when you've made a mistake or when you have a shortfall, again, it's leading by example. It just makes it, once you do that, it makes it okay for everybody else to go, oh, okay, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to put up these walls. We can admit when something's going on, or maybe, I didn't do that quite as well as what I would have. And that's when the learning is, and that's when we can start, I think, actually progressing together. But again, I think it comes down to leading by example too.
Look, in my 30 years, I've been fortunate enough that I've worked with, and one gentleman in particular, for most of that time, they've, whether they've been my station officer, my area commander, inspector, superintendent, whatever it is, they've always had some sort of input into, my career. And again, I've been really fortunate, just absolutely salt of the earth people that have this, I won't get anyone to do something that I would never do myself, or whatever it is, I'll treat people how I want to be treated. And so the difference that makes, because all it made me do is when I become a station officer, I thought, I want to be that person.
Yep.
I want to follow the direction that they took, and I want people to, it's not about being liked, but it's about, I guess, being respected by people. But like you say, there's two ways. And I try and be those managers that I've had on my day-to-day with my crews and things. So there is definitely it definitely rubs off on people
100%.
to be that. And unfortunately, if you're the other way, it still rubs off on people.
Yeah, exactly right. I think we completely underestimate the influence that we have on other people.
Oh,
and especially in these jobs, if you're spending an extended period of time with the same core group of people, like you just become what your environment is. And
Yeah.
I think we need to be really careful about that, how we conduct ourselves and how we carry ourselves, even like to the point of, I guess, how we speak about others and the workplace and being positive and negative and that outlook that we have. I think we can really underestimate how much influence we have on other people. And it's, it's not about, again, it's not about being perfect, but if we're just mindful about that, especially if you've got, I think you mentioned it before, we got a lot of younger people coming through, or even like, not even younger, just newer people. They just look around and go, well, they look up to the other people that have already been around for a bit and go, well, this is how we behave. This is what we do. We sit around and we whinge and we bitch or we whatever. I think we need to just be mindful that we influence people more than what we
think.
And
I don't think people understand how much influence they do have on the younger ones. People might think, oh, I've been a fire for 8 years, 9 years, 6 years, 5 years. What could I bring to the party? Well, a lot.
Yeah. And,
the new ones coming in, they look up to those people. Yeah. So you've got a lot of influence. And, I've had a mate that's been in the job a long, long time and since retired, but I always remember his sort of MO was, if I turn up on the day at work and I'm 1, 2 or 3 on the vehicle, I'll be the best number 1 I can be. I'll be the best number, whatever it is, whatever he was designated with that day, I'm just got to be the best at that.
Yep.
And that always struck a chord with me because I think that's so true, Focus on what you can really do and make those influential changes, because as a junior, and I was a junior when he said it, and I still remember it and think, wow, you've got a lot of influence in the job.
Yep. I think everyone is a leader in some capacity.
Oh, yeah.
In some capacity, you are a leader. Even the first day on shift, you're a leader within the community. And I think everyone needs to, just pay that a little bit of respect sometimes, and don't underestimate your influence that you're having on others, because someone's always watching and listening, and someone's always, I guess, looking up to you at some point.
I like the old recruit instructor that feels they've got to yell and bark and all of a sudden they've got to sit in the same mess room and have the sandwich, and they're going, why aren't they sitting with me having a sandwich with me? I can tell you why.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's it's interesting. People, cultures, and all that sort of stuff. But
what about you, mate? What do you want to see? Where do you want to see the podcast go?
Mate, I much like you, I think it'd be nice to have some way down the track. It'd be nice to have a some sort of wellness hub, like you said. I think that'd be a really cool thing to get off the ground, and because I think we do need somewhere for people to go and potentially get these skills and services and whatever for people. But in terms of the actual potty, mate, I reckon I'd like to see us sort of keep going down the same track with this similar guests, exploring different themes, maybe like a Q&A type thing. I think that would be pretty cool if we can sort of start hearing some questions and queries and things from the listeners. I think that would be cool, and seeing how that goes, mate. But yeah, I think I'd like to see it just keep growing, mate. We've had enough feedback to say that people are getting some benefit and some value and some impact out of this. So I'd like to see that continue, but maybe a little bit more engagement and a bit more, like if we can do those Q&As and stuff like that, mate. But
I think you're right. I think for that person sitting at home that wants to, and it's probably a really good environment for them to do that. They can still remain, anonymous or call in and ask those questions. I think that would be such a great avenue for, because it goes back to that lived experience.
Yeah.
If I want to learn how to cook a certain thing, I'm not going to ring a chippy.
Yeah.
I'm going to ring a cook. So, I think. And we also talked about getting some of those really influential people, especially the ones that we've been fortunate enough to meet and have on the show, is that round the table discussion about certain things, and it's that bringing all those minds together and sharing that with other people. And because, as you know, we keep talking about it, it's just those people pick little bits out of a conversation that they use as that mighty power to go and to make those changes in life. And if we can keep doing that, mate, we've always said, we're doing our job. So definitely keep doing that.
Mate, how good. How bloody good. 2 years.
2 years today.
Nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Feels like 5. But
it feels like 5. Hey, it's not that bad sitting here with me.
No, not at all. Just actually, I would have... Funny story, we were talking about how long the show's been going. We both looked at Joshy looked at the last episode, today's date, exactly 2 years ago, almost probably to the time or two, I'd imagine, back at...
It would be pretty close, yeah.
So...
Mate, do you know, actually, I just had a thought. The other thing I'd like to see with this in particular is maybe building a bit more, and again, it probably comes along with engagement, it's just building a bit more community and maybe branching out and making a little bit of merch and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely.
So, people can, represent, a little bit, whether that's shirts or hats or something like that.
And that's something you initiated with the challenge coins as well. So they're available to purchase. Obviously, people in the emergency services and defence forces would understand the concept behind the challenge coin.
Yep.
So there's a starting point there.
Yeah, there is. But I think a bit more community.
And the other thing we've often had discussions about, but we don't, obviously don't talk about it a lot because we're in the business of helping people. Yep. We struggle to have people help us big time.
It's a phobia, mate. I'm going to look it up, actually. I reckon there's a phobia.
There'd have to be.
And I reckon...
And we've got it.
I reckon we've got it.
Yeah. But if there's anyone out there that wishes to, obviously we're going to be looking at sponsorship and which goes a long way to everything that we're doing, obviously, So, maybe someone's listening that would certainly like to sponsor the show. We're all for it. And we have been lucky enough to get those sponsors with a few of the people with the smoke soap and things like that. So, we're very fortunate in that area. So keep them coming.
Yeah, if anyone's keen to align with us and wants to have a chat, again, reach out. We've got email address, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But again, we're looking to build that community, looking to, if anyone does want to jump on with us, they believe in what we're doing and how we're doing it, reach out, have a chat. We especially, I guess, if they're in the community or attached to the community or want to support the community of veterans, first responders, ADF members, absolutely, we love to help people out.
And unfortunately, it's a cost of doing business. It does financially have a cost, and we've always tried to minimise our costs and whatever we can do. But for us, the next level is to get that education out there, and so it'd be nice to see some sponsorship come through.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah,
and hit like and subscribe. Is that what we have to say?
Yeah, I think
social media terms
that one. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever, share.
Yeah.
Whatever you can, it all helps.
It does.
Actually, every single one, it all helps.
It does.
If you can follow us on fucking Spotify, whatever,
YouTube.
It's an innocuous little task.
Yeah.
But it
makes a difference.
It helps so much more than what you think. And I never realized until we started doing this. I was like, holy dilly, like that shit it's nothing to do as the individual. And you can turn all the notifications and shit off too.
Yeah,
so.
But more importantly, we've not even thinking about the financial gains or anything like that. It's about more people hearing it.
Exactly. Yep.
That's what I'd prefer to see. 10,000 people that have viewed it and have gotten something out of it. That to me,
well, that's what it's about. It's about impact, right?
Exactly.
And I guess the more ease you can get around it, the more impact you can have, and the more the increases the chances that someone's heard that and gone, "Holy fuck, that's me." I'm going to make a change, or I'm going to implement this, or now I can go and reach out to X. You know, it's just amplifies the chances of someone having a positive impact. So, yeah, absolutely right, mate. It's more so about that. I guess sponsorship and monetizing things helps more so keep the lights on.
Exactly.
Helps, you know, pay for subscriptions. It helps for gear. It helps for blah, blah, blah. None of this shit's cheap. So
Yeah. I mean, in 2 years, we've come a long way. We've now got cameras.
Yeah, exactly right. And this beautiful studio too.
Yeah.
Little shout out to Wildkind Studio.
Yeah.
Absolute legends. So, but yeah, I think that'll wrap us up. 2 years, mate.
Yeah, 2 years. Let's talk about it on our next birthday.
Well, let's try and get it in 12 months' time.
Yes.
Don't let that get away from us.
Yeah.
But
Go so quick,
but yeah, it'd be remiss of us not to say thank you to everyone
definitely.
who has, up until this point, who has jumped on board and listened and given us the feedback, shared, who has been doing those things, sharing, liking, subscribing, whatever. We fucking appreciate it. We really do.
And especially the guests, again, that have given their time, time and, you know, because they are absolutely top shelf guests that we've had on, and very humbling to even know that some people have reached out to us and said, hey, can I come on your show? That to me just blew me away.
Yeah.
Considering some of these people have been on some pretty headline podcasts, Mark Burris and the likes, and that, blew me away. So we're very fortunate. But
massive thank you.
Yeah.
Listeners and guests alike. And once again, we encourage anyone just to reach out. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you've got something you want to hear about. Let us know.
Yeah, more stories would be really, especially those lived experiences. And we've got some in the pipeline that we're working on right now. They're going to be really good stories that people can listen to and get something out of. So I'm really excited about that.
Absolutely.
So how do people find us?
Spotify, all good podcast platforms. YouTube.
Behind the Badge.
Yep, Behind the Badge. Instagram, Facebook, all the socials. Well, not all the socials. Instagram, Facebook, the only two. But all your podcast platforms and YouTube. So Behind the Badge podcast. Punch that in, and it should be pretty easy to find us.
Yeah.
Google us, whatever.
It is pretty easy.
Yeah. Happy days.
All right, mate. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much.
And thanks for all the work you do behind the scenes, mate. We certainly wouldn't be where we are without the effort that you put in. So
thanks, mate. You too. We'll just keep plugging away, mate, and do what we can do. So, till next time.
Ciao.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please show your support by subscribing, liking, and rating the podcast on your listening and social media platforms. We are always looking to improve what we do. If you have feedback, suggestions for further guests, topics, or would like to be a guest yourself, please contact us via Instagram.